If you clicked on this video, you know what Brunello di Montalcino is. It's one of Italy's and Tuscany's greatest red wines based off Sangiovese. The local clone is called Brunello or Sangiovese Grosso. The Biondi Santi family were the first to introduce the name Brunello into southern Tuscany, into Montalcino. That took place in the late 19th century. Brunello di Montalcinos are big, structured, yet that have this unique elegance to them. Come from Montalcino, one of the warmest parts of Tuscany. Side note, Montalcino is pretty difficult to get to. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Brunello di Montalcino has a younger sibling called Rosso di Montalcino. Brunello di Montalcino was one of Italy's first DOCGs in 1980. Then soon after, in 1984, Rosso di Montalcino was formed. Brunello di Montalcino needs to be aged for at least 4 years after the harvest date. 2 of those need to be in oak. For Brunello di Montalcino Reserve, it needs to be aged for at least 5 years. That means the wines are sitting in the cellar. Producers are not making money, so the Italian government introduced the Rosso di Montalcino. Those need to be aged only for 1 year after the harvest. 6 months have to be in oak. Rosso di Montalcino can be made with younger vines that eventually will become Brunello, or can actually be wine in the cellar that's meant to be Brunello di Montalcino. Maybe producers feel like, it's not up to speed. They can declassify it into a Rosso di Montalcino. Rosso di Montalcinos are made in an inverted triangle, and let me explain what that means. Usually when you have a flagship wine, like say Barolo for instance, there'll be a smaller amount of Barolo being made, and then at the base level there'll be more Langhe Nebbiolo or Nebbiolo d'Alba, more of an entry-level type wine. In the case of Brunello, since it commands higher price points, producers make most Brunello and then a small amount of Rosso di Montalcino, which for me is unfortunate. I absolutely love these wines. Oftentimes I buy, drink, and enjoy them more than Brunello di Montalcinos, especially the price point. Good Brunellos, you're going to start at least at 50 bucks, go up to sometimes 4 figures. While the most expensive Rosso di Montalcino is $200-ish, you can find a lot of value in the $24 to $35 range. And when you're in Tuscany, it can be even less. Both are made out of Sangiovese, aka Sangiovese Grosso, aka Brunello. Well, that's what it is on paper. What about in the glass? I have the same producer, the current release of the Brunello, the current release of the Rosso di Montalcino. Let's taste the difference. I know it's Sangiovese, but tasting out of a Pinot Noir glass is the Riedel Performance Pinot Noir glass. I love this glass. I love the shape of it. I think it's going to work great with Sangiovese. That's why I use it. If you want to check it out, I'll leave a link in the description box. The reason I'm doing this video is I recently shot a Rosso di Montalcino video. I think I'll put this one out first before the Rosso di Montalcino blind tasting, but I had 2 bottles of the Rosso di Montalcino, along with that producer's Brunello, and I thought, let's taste the difference between the two because I think it'll be useful for you. As always, I Corvin these and had somebody mix them up for me. Brunellos I expect to be a little more powerful, a lot more tannic, and a little bit more aged because obviously they have to be aged before they're released. These are both the current releases. Let's start out with wine number 1 here. Wine number 1 on my right, your left. Okay, a lot of tobacco. Touch of funk, sour cherry type flavors, cedar type notes. It's so funny because this smells really good, but it's going to be hard for me to know the difference between which one's Brunello, which one's Rosso until I taste them side by side. Wow, this is a seamless wine. Long finish, you get sour cherry, tobacco, all the complexities up front. But when you have a great wine, you have the perfect seamless transition from fruit to acidity to tannins to length. I get a little bit of peppermint, a little graphite to go with the sour cherry and the tobacco here. It's long. I'm still tasting it. That's good. If that's the Rosso, that's the deal of the century. Let's go to 2. 1, let's go with 2 here. Oh, 2 also smells good. Got a little bit of funk. Sour cherry, red plum, a little bit of pepper and mud type flavors. It's pretty explosive. I thought this would be super easy. This is really difficult right now. This is really good. Let me see if I can look at color here. On taste alone, it's hard to tell. I'm gonna swallow, I'm not gonna spit here. Good, even has a little bit of rubber on the back. Let's go back to 1 here. This is, I just did the big Rosso di Montalcino tasting. So I thought this would be, I mean, I'm shooting this pretty much immediately after I did my Rosso di Montalcino tasting. I thought this would be super easy. It's not. I'd like to drink both of these wines. I think one just gave me a little bit more excitement. That's maybe where I'm going to go with the Brunello. But who knows? Like I said, sometimes I prefer Rosso di Montalcino, so let's see. Blind tasting's all about deduction. There's so many variables and you try to narrow it down, and you can see it's tough even when it's just two wines. Just gotta double check. Just gotta double check. My reputation's on the line here. I think I'm gonna stick to my guns here. Both are excellent wines. Really good wines, actually. Something I really, really want to drink. I'm gonna go with one being the Brunello. Well, let's see, because it just gave me a little bit more emotion. Let's go with number 2. 91 points, I think. I think it's excellent. More of a richer style with a touch of funkiness. I thought it'd be easy. It's just how the wine danced and came together in length. That's what I used to determine the difference between the two. Let's take a look and see. I thought that I would get this right. This is the Campogiovanni Brunello di Montalcino 2019, $74 from a great vintage. This is brought to you by the team of San Felice, which also makes outstanding Chianti Classicos. And I have no idea how I got that mixed up. This is an excellent wine from an outstanding vintage. I don't know. Another factor is more expensive, bigger wines like Brunello are made to be aged, so we taste these wines again in 5-10 years. The story I think is going to be completely different. With better wines, better fruit, more concentrated, the fruit starts to fall off, but still there's a lot of complexities. With more inexpensive wine, the fruit falls off and it starts to kind of just turn into acid water. That's the thing about wine, man. Wine's always changing. It speaks to you in a different way depending on your mood, and I gave this wine 93 points. I didn't score, and this is the Rosso. I didn't score it this high in the earlier Rosso di Montalcino tasting, and that's the thing about wine tasting. Things are changing all the time. This is the Campogiovanni 2022 Rosso di Montalcino. This comes in at $28. I think the most fascinating thing here for me is I couldn't even cheat on color. Usually I thought the one that was a little bit lighter would be the Brunello because it has a little bit more age, has a little more browning on the rim, like the Rosso. But again, Brunello is more concentrated, better fruit. This one was darker, so I associated that with being a younger wine. I was completely fooled, and I'm not gonna edit it, I'm gonna keep it as is. So tell me, do you prefer Rosso di Montalcino or do you prefer Brunello di Montalcino? I'd love to hear. Any favorite producers? Drop it in the comments below, guys. Woo!